Right. I mean, not great for the brand. I got to get rid of that glare. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show. Thrilled with the Ben Roethlisberger pick at the end of the game last night because A, it killed any chance of me covering into that teaser, and B, he was only a handful of passing attempts away from reaching the over on the prop that I'd given out as well. So that INT effectively killed two bets at the end. Big Ben, what is wrong with you, bro? All right. Chat's working. Good to have you guys here. Killed my over in that game too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what to make of the Steelers at the current moment. It's easy to get down on them. They've lost two straight. They didn't look good in that game against Baltimore a few weeks back when it was the D squad. You could think to yourself one of two things. It's been a tough season. They've had a lot of scheduling quirks. They play a lot of these games on short rest. And Buffalo is a very good opponent, let's be honest. Or you could think something more than the situation is wrong, such as there's something wrong with Ben. They really don't have much of a running game to speak of anymore. Roethlisberger has weapons galore at his disposal, and he looks terrible. Some of his decision-making looks bad. His throws look bad all the way around. So I'm not sure what to make of the Steelers. I'm excited about Buffalo with the way they're playing. So welcome to the stream. First up, next time we're doing one of these, we'll be on Thursday to get ready for Thursday Night Football. We also generally talk a little college in there as well. So that's when we'll break down some of the conference championship games. Florida, 17-point underdog to Alabama in the SEC championship. Notre Dame is a 10.5-point underdog to Clemson in the ACC championship. Ohio State's laying 20.5 against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship. I've been ranting on this for more than a week. Northwestern, the level to which they are getting screwed in this scenario is unfathomable. And no one is bothering to point it out, which is why I just keep banging the damn drum on this. So changing the rules to let Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, fine, right? I'm not going to get all banged up about that. They're the best team in the conference. But then making Northwestern play Illinois this past weekend while Ohio State has off because of Michigan's COVID issues, gives Ohio State a bye going into the championship game against a team that just had to play, get banged up, risk injury, all that stuff. That's messed up. That part's messed up. They should have just canceled the Illinois game. Give Northwestern 2 weeks to get ready for that game. So enough on that rant. We'll talk about that Thursday. It's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We've also got Thursday Night Football, Chargers-Raiders. That should be good. Given the way those two play, that should be a good football game. What's the total? 54.5. No surprise there. How many people are going to be betting the over in that game? All right, so that's next time we're back. The recap, as I said, last night sucked, 1-3. Josh Allen, 29.5 rushing yards. Under was a winner. Pittsburgh plus the points was a loser. Pittsburgh opening up a tease was a loser. And Ben over, I think it was 41.5 passing attempts, loser. 1-3 last night, 116, 150, and 1 on the season. So I am now 34 games under 500. That is terrible. I said I'd get this to even by the end of the Super Bowl. It doesn't look good. Let's be completely honest about that. It does not look good. All right. Focus, try to get right. Before we get to the game tonight, one thing I like to do on the Monday stream is take a look at the look-ahead lines for the upcoming week, right? So we've got week 15 coming up starting Thursday. We also have a couple Saturday games too this week. Keep that in mind. 2 games on Saturday. So you know what? We'll be previewing those on Thursday as well. We'll do Thursday Night Football, Saturday Night Football, and college football. Thursday stream, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Right here on this channel. You can subscribe to it well if you want. Losers coming, no doubt about that. So we like to take, this is week 15 coming up. What we like to do here is go to the look-ahead lines, which are the lines that came out last week, the advanced lines for the following week's games. You can bet a game more than a week in advance. Those lines disappear once the games kick off Sunday, and then the lines come back out after all the games. It's good to compare the numbers to see if there are any overreactions or underreactions based on what happened this past weekend. Fade Fortenbaugh. Yeah, Tom, it's actually, you don't even say fade Fortenbaugh. It's just hashtag Fortenbaugh. I started that years ago, fading myself. I've started that years ago. You're late to the party on that one. All right. So look ahead line Thursday night. The Raiders were a 3-point favorite against the Chargers. That's now down to 3. We saw the Chargers win yesterday. Only Atlanta could do something like that. And the Raiders looked horrible defensively against the Colts. I'm not saying I'm going to back the Chargers there, but the Raiders are fading late just like they did last year. They started strong last season. I don't know, 5-2, maybe something like that. They went 1-5 down the stretch. And that math probably doesn't even add up, but you get the point. I know they went 1-5 down the stretch. Same thing this year. They were 6-3. Now they've lost 3 of 4, and the only winner was that game that the Jets gave them. That should be 4 straight losses for the Raiders. And that defense looks terrible. They just fired Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator. Like, that's going to solve the problem. Remember something, when Gruden was coming back, that was his guy. So you can put all the blame on him, but Gruden, it's not like Gruden was forced to bring in Gunther. That was his guy. And they've drafted and spent plenty on the assets over there. They're not getting the job done on defense. So I'm not saying I want to play the Chargers because, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Gruden's, but he's better than Anthony Lynn, obviously. Saturday's games, Green Bay was originally a 9.5-point favorite over Carolina. That's down to 8.5. It's just a ton of points to lay. Buffalo was a 5-point favorite over Denver. They are at Denver. They are now laying 6. Huge win for the Bills. Now you're going to go on the road and lay 6 at Denver. Easy team to overlook. Be careful there. Short week, too. All right, to Sunday's games. The Colts were a 6.5-point favorite over Houston. That's now up to 7. Houston got crushed by the Bears yesterday, and the Colts look good against the Raiders. I've liked this Colts team all season long. It was one of our few winners yesterday. Tennessee was an 8.5-point favorite over Detroit. That's still 8.5. That feels like a lot to lay against the Lions, given Tennessee's defense, but we'll see. The Rams were a 13.5-point favorite against the Jets. That's now up to 17. No surprise. The Jets look terrible in Seattle, as expected. Tampa Bay was a 1.5-point favorite over Atlanta. Huge move here. That's up to 5.5. They were a 1.5-point favorite on the road at Atlanta. That has gone up 4 points. Reason number 1, and the Bucs were our favorite play yesterday, so we nailed that one. Again, not bragging. It's nice to talk about random winners that pop up on this stream. They look good against Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota gave the game away early with all those missed kicks by Dan Bailey, but they won that game, and they did what they needed to do in the second half to close it out. And Atlanta looked so bad against the Chargers that this readjustment had to happen. I don't know there. I was not that impressed with Tampa Bay yesterday. Brady gets shook in that pocket. The thing is, can Atlanta bring any pressure whatsoever? Keep that one in mind. Miami was a 3-point favorite hosting the Patriots. That's down to 2.5. Seattle was that's probably Belichick versus Tua. Seattle was a 3-point favorite at Washington. That's up to 5. That is up to 5. Interesting. Considering Washington won again, went to the Niners. They didn't score an offensive TD in that game, though, from what I remember. All right. Already have Green Bay -2 and Indy -5 on a 6-point teaser. Yeah, Green Bay is going to be a good teaser, and Indy, yeah, I like that. That's a good play. Minnesota was 6.5 hosting Chicago. That's down to 3. The Vikings may be a real strong play right there. 6.5 on the look ahead, down to 3. Okay, Chicago looked good against Houston. Why? Because you can run against Houston, and Houston stinks. And Minnesota just got beat up by Tampa Bay. I don't know. I think that's too much of an adjustment. Minnesota might be a play there. Baltimore was an 11-point favorite against Jacksonville. That's now 13. Baltimore plays tonight. We'll talk about that in a moment. Cleveland was a 3-point favorite at the Giants. That's now 3.5. Cleveland plays tonight. Depending on what you think of this game tonight, there could be some value in trying to make some plays now on these. Arizona was a 6.5-point favorite hosting Philly. That's now 6. Going to be very interesting to see what the market thinks of Philly now with Jalen Hurts. Remember something. Philly's defense can play. They were tied for 5th in opponent yards per play coming into the weekend. They look really good because the Bears are playing their yearly game of let's fortunes at the top. Yes, very nicely done. Kansas City was a 3-point favorite at New Orleans. That's now up to 3.5. Kansas City hasn't covered in like 5 straight. It might not be 5, it might be 6, it might be 4, but they're not covering. They had a great cover streak going back to last year. They don't cover anymore. They're going to go to New Orleans and lay 3.5. Drew Brees, I think a lot of people think is going to be back for this one. If it's Taysom Hill, I'm not really interested. Like you saw what you needed to see in the game against Philadelphia. Hill is nice playing from in front with a great defense backing him up. But if they're playing from behind, it's like Baltimore. Like the quarterback's not capable of leading him back. He couldn't do it. And Sean Payton yesterday with some of those decisions, 4th and 1 punt, 4th and 2, kick the field goal. That's the whole reason you have Taysom Hill, is to go for it on 4th. If you're not even doing that anymore, what's the point? Regurgitating that rant from yesterday. Niners were in a 2.5-point favorite against Dallas. Remember, that game's in Arizona. San Francisco, a home team. They're supposed to be playing in Arizona. That's still 2.5. Ugh. And Pittsburgh was laying 11.5 against Cincinnati. They looked bad against Buffalo. They're now laying 12.5 against Cincinnati. That is what everyone thinks is Cincinnati. So those are your moves. Tonight, Cleveland Browns. And this is what you got to keep your eye on here. 34 degrees, so it'll be cold. Not really any chance of precipitation, but the wind tonight's going to be an issue. And we talk about the line move here. The money's been coming in on the under for quite some time. It's now sitting 45.5. I believe it was up north of 47 at one point, 47.5. So it's been a steady stream of under money, not just today. People were jumping on this yesterday and maybe even 2 days ago. They started to notice the weather reports. There was supposed to be wind over the weekend, and it was supposed to die down today, but it hasn't. So it's still in the forecast right around 20 mile an hour. 20 mile an hour is when you want to start paying attention to that. Plus, you don't really have two QBs with the strongest of arms. It's not like either of these guys is Josh Allen. So keep that in mind heading into this game tonight. In addition, that's the weather report, the injuries for tonight. So Baltimore has cornerback Tramon Williams is listed as doubtful. They have a very lengthy questionable list, though, with some big names. Calais Campbell. He hasn't played in a little while. He didn't practice all week, but he's not listed as doubtful. He's listed as questionable. He's going to be big for the rushing attack tonight, or at least the run defense going up against Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns. So generally, these announcements come out about 90 minutes before kickoff. Keep your eyes on that because that's going to be an important one. Jimmy, the cornerback, is questionable. Broderick Washington, the defensive tackle, is questionable. Luke Wilson, tight end, he's questionable as well. Other than that, Ravens looking pretty good. Cleveland's looking real good here. Cornerback Denzel Ward is out, as is wide receiver Kadero Hodge, I believe his name is. Yeah, Kadero Hodge. He's out. And Austin Hooper, the tight end, is questionable. Outside of that, though, they are good to go. So the offensive line is going to be healthy and ready to play for this game. Good news for the Browns. So that's where we're at. Line moves here. It's been steady money on the Ravens, and it's been steady money on the under. We already talked about the under. The Ravens are laying 3, and some places already have it minus 120, minus 118, which means 3.5 is coming. All right? 3.5 is coming in this one, or at least it's looking real close. I don't know if that's where the buyback will occur. People will start jumping on Cleveland plus 3.5 at home. Not a lot of faith in the Browns tonight from the betting public. And this was as low as, I think, Cleveland minus 1. So, no. Baltimore minus 1, excuse me. And this thing stormed right up to 3 and might go right through it. So it's Baltimore money and it's under money. One of the reasons has to do with Cleveland and whether or not they are truly a legit contender this year. They are 9-3, which was a fantastic record. But ask yourself something. And let me go ahead and bring this up right now so I have the exact number. How are you 9-3? Meaning you've won 9 and lost 3, but over the course of those 12 games, you've been outscored by 15 points. How does that happen? How do you get outscored by 15 points in a 12-game stretch where you go 9-3? Let me give you another team. Miami, 8-5. Okay, they're not 9-3, they're 8-5. They're plus 85 in scoring differential. Let me give you another one. The Washington football team, they're 6-7. They're plus 12 in scoring differential. Cleveland somehow is 9-3, and they are minus 15. Baltimore 7-5, they're plus 85. Translation, when you get to this point in the season, scoring differential is a very good indicator of how good your team is. If you are a 500 team, if you are 6-6, your point differential should be right around even. If you are Cincinnati and you're 2-10-1, you're minus 94. That's no surprise. If you're Kansas City and you're 12-1 and you're plus 1, something there to be desired. And keep this in mind as well. Cleveland is 6-0 in one-score games this season. Games decided by one score, Cleveland is 6-0. That points to a major regression as well. Over a long enough sample, a in games decided by one score, which are essentially coin flips, field goal here, missed field goal there, situations like that, you should be 500. So if you're 6-0, there's regression coming. That's what we're looking at. So I think that's why you have what you have happening with Baltimore. Plus, they're healthy. And I think a lot of people saw what they did last week against Dallas. While they didn't look great, here we are. Harbaugh in December has always been a good trend as well. So 5 picks for tonight. I'm starting with the under 45.5. First and foremost, the wind concerns me, yes, as does the passing attack for both teams. You've got some decent defense here. I'm not going to call either team great or elite, but you also have two teams that move very slow in terms of pace. And that's something to keep in mind as we work our way through this. Cleveland ranks 26th in plays per game. Baltimore ranks 29th in plays per game. And if you look at the pace metrics, they're near the bottom as well. Pace for the NFL is essentially how many seconds in between the end of the last play and the start of the next play. Some teams like to run up to the line of scrimmage, call the play out there, go a little bit more no huddle, move quicker, try to keep the defense off their heels. Other teams like to stop, huddle, have a discussion, go to the line of scrimmage. Like watching the Saints yesterday. The time is just ticking. Taysom Hill's huddling up because he doesn't understand the offense like Drew Brees. He doesn't know how to move him quickly. He's got to stop. He's got to think. He has to be communicated to. And that hurts a team like that, right? These teams don't move that fast. The Ravens like to run the ball, wear you down, rest their defense. Mayfield's not in much of a hurry either. So that's the situation here. You have two teams that like to take their time, two teams that don't run a ton of plays, two teams that are average on defense, two teams that offensively aren't exactly lighting up the scoreboard this year. In fact, let's look at Cleveland. First 5 games of the season, they're averaging 31 points per game. Very healthy. Last 7 games of the season, they've been averaging 21 points per game. They've fallen off a cliff the last 7 games. They're scoring 10 fewer points per game. Why? They faced some better defenses. They lost Odell Beckham, and a lot of people like to say that the team's winning and playing better without him. I'm not going to argue that. They're certainly not scoring as much. Beckham was lost right near the beginning of that downturn. So keep that in mind. That's essentially why we're going to go under 45.5 points for pick number 1. Pick number 2 is going to play right into that. Baker Mayfield under 221.5 passing yards. So he's only averaging 203 passing yards per game this season, 18 yards below the average. So that's number 1. Number 2, he's eclipsed this mark, 221 passing yards in just 4 of 12 games this season. So it doesn't happen all that often. And then again, the big factor, the wind tonight. He doesn't have a monster arm. They like to run the ball. History shows throughout the course of the season, he's not lighting it up even when the weather's good anyway. And Baltimore, keep this in mind, is allowing just 5.9 yards per pass attempt this season. That is 3rd lowest in the NFL. That means they're not giving up a lot of deep shots. In fact, they have just allowed 4 passes of 40 or more yards this season, which is 2nd lowest in the NFL. And they've allowed only 27 passes of 20 or more yards. That's the lowest in the NFL, which leads us to pick number 3, Mayfield under 34.5 yards for his longest completion. You take wind, you take the lack of a big arm from Baker Mayfield, and you take a defense that doesn't give up big pass plays, as well as no Odell Beckham in this game. They want to run the ball. We go ahead, we play under 34.5. So that's pick number 3. Pick number 4 is Lamar Jackson under 27.5 passing attempts. He's averaging 26.6 per game this season, so we're asking him to go a bit above the average. As a 3-point favorite with a lot of money coming in on the Ravens, the game script here looks like it could be Baltimore playing with a lead, which means fantastic news for the Ravens. He doesn't have to throw the ball. And again, you have two teams that like to play at a very slow pace. So maybe not a lot of opportunity there. Under 27.5 passing attempts. That's a completions prop for most quarterbacks. For Jackson, that's his attempts. And then finally, a first quarter bet. Baltimore minus -0.5 point to win the first quarter, plus 106. Right? So you're actually getting plus 106. $100 bet returns 106. Why? Baltimore's been one of the best first quarter teams in the NFL this year. They rank 2nd in first quarter scoring. They rank 4th in first quarter points allowed. They've been fantastic. Now, if Cleveland was close to them in this department, I wouldn't make the bet. Cleveland ranks 25th in first quarter scoring and 20th in first quarter points allowed. So you've got a really good Ravens team in the first quarter and a really bad Browns team in the first quarter. Let's play the Ravens. Let's go ahead and lay half a point at plus 106. I think the wrong team's favored there. I think that's a situation where Baltimore shouldn't be getting 106 for the half point. Should be more like even, maybe minus 105, minus 110. So there it is. Those are the 5 plays for tonight. Recap. Under 45.5 total points. Baker Mayfield under 221.5 passing yards. Baker Mayfield under 34.5 yards for his longest completion. Lamar Jackson under 27.5 passing attempts, and Baltimore minus half a point in the first quarter. Thank you for coming. Hopefully these turn out better than some of the others have. We'll be back Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Subscribe to the get all these wires out of my life because I'm using a laptop now. That's a very selfish request on my behalf. I completely understand if you don't do it. But we're back Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We're going to preview Thursday night football, Saturday night football, because we got 2 NFL games, and all the conference championship games, SEC, Big 12, ACC. If anyone else wants to throw it out there, we'll bet that as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great week, and thank you for watching. Should be a fun game tonight.